I don't know how to explain it, but this season of Total Drama made me realize that the next season is going to be the better one of the two. This is probably going to be my last Total Drama video for a couple of months, just because my brain is practically turned to soup after this. But it's not real. Hi.
Oh man, I just knocked over my camera. I'm picking it up. Sorry about that.
Hi my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. So some of you may remember about 8 months ago or so when the Total Drama reboot came out, or leaked. Yeah, it's still not out in America. What is going on? Anyway, the reboot was actually a 2-season order, so we already knew about this season and that season 2 would be in the works very soon after, and now it's here again from the internet. This launch was way more messy also than the last one. Like, by that I mean, I had to watch through YouTube. The episode drops were pretty random, and I was just more prone to seeing spoilers this way, either through randomized thumbnails on these YouTube videos or through Twitter, my Twitter timeline, which I'm not even on Total Drama Twitter, but I think it's because I follow Terry McGurran maybe that I just see all of the Total Drama fandom on my Twitter feed. He interacts with a lot of fan tweets is why I say that, but I'm not on Total Drama Twitter. Anyway, we should know how this works. First, we'll be reading my prediction bingo card, which is a total spoiler-free section, so if you haven't watched the show yet or you just don't want to be spoiled, then you can just watch this section of the video and I'll, obviously warn you again when the spoiler section starts. But there are chapters, so it should be kind of obvious when that portion starts anyways. From that, you can kind of gather that after my prediction bingo card reading, we'll move on to what I got wrong and right on the bingo card, but also just a complete, review of the season and my thoughts kind of completely unfiltered. And before we get into my bingo card, I do have a confession to make. Yes, I cut my hair pretty much a little bit after the season started surfacing online. You would be correct in that. Unfortunately though, as I mentioned in my Christmas special, my SD card was having issues. In that video, I said that basically it deleted my whole entire intro. Why I'm bringing that up though is because the same thing happened with my footage that I had filmed just days before I filmed that video of me reading my prediction bingo card prior to even watching the show. So I had two options: refilm it days before, knowing that you guys could tell that it wasn't actually prior to my watch, or just do this video all in one take. So obviously to make things easier, I'm just doing it in one take. Trust me, I'm disappointed too. It won't really change anything. I have all my reasons for why I thought these predictions were going to happen written down, but enough of my rambling. I just want to make that clear because I didn't want someone to be like, you're lying. This was not prior to you watching the show. Well, no, it wasn't. Sorry. You caught me. Now that all of that is out of the way though, let's get into my Total Drama Season 2 reboot bingo card. So my first square on my prediction bingo card was lesbian couple. I had this on there last time, so you know me, just wanted some more gay people on the island. Wanted a lesbian couple in particular just because it would be nice to see that representation as, someone who is a lesbian. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Moving on the lines of that, I put Axel x Nichelle. A lot of people there was a scene in the finale where Axel and Nichelle were interacting and people were like, oh wow, this is kind of a fun duo. It'd be nice if they could become more than that. That's basically what that is. It's just a fanon ship that people were hoping would turn into a couple. Two characters we didn't get to see a lot of last season, but we get to see more of this season. So yeah, it was just kind of a guess on oh, if there's a lesbian couple, then who is it? Moving on, we have challenges from the article Won't Happen. So there was this article before the seasons came out, and it was talking about some challenges that would potentially happen in the new reboot season, and they were talking about Drag Race, TikTok, and some other stuff. But we didn't really see much of this from the first season, so I just put on here that I didn't think the stuff from the article was actually happening. Annual fart joke. If you watch Total Drama, you should know what I'm talking about. Fresh TV is not shy when including fart jokes in this show specifically. It feels a little bit like a fetish. It's really gross to me. I never find it funny. I never found it funny when I was little either, because I know it's appealing to potty humor, but I'm sorry, it's just not funny. It's gross. Especially the way they did it in the reboot with this one character. I also put Caleb regular dude arc. I put this because a lot of people were theorizing, oh, Caleb is gonna be like how Justin was in Action, where he's this attractive guy, but he turns out to be a little bit of a villain. I just didn't really see that happening. I thought it would be way too predictable, and we've already had that kind of trope happen before, so I was like, I don't really see it happening, to be honest. So I just put, since we didn't really get to know Caleb in season 1, since he was the first voted off, that he was just gonna have a regular dude arc and be a nice chill guy. Then we have Scary Girl decides to be normal. I put this on here because basically Scary Girl's new look in season 2 was leaked prior to, the season. It was leaked by someone who was a voice actor actor, I think. Because I remember seeing, like, this shit go down on my timeline. And just based off that only the spoiler I saw, I was just like, okay, well, she's gonna say she tried to be normal or something. And then following that, I assumed she would be voted off early. I put Scary Girl voted off early, but gets brought back. Because to me, to have this gag character get voted off first, it's a gag character. How are you not gonna utilize it? And based off that, I thought it would make sense for her to just be brought back onto the show to maybe like help Chris with evil doings. Because an early vote off for her, especially because she's a fan favorite, just didn't make sense to me. Next is Gen 1 references. I put this on my last one too. It's just very general because there's a whole crowd of people who refuse to watch this just because it's not Gen 1, which I think is ridiculous. So yeah, I figured there is gotta be some Gen 1 references in this season, more blatant than the last. I think Fresh TV enjoys doing that kind of thing with like little Easter eggs, so I just kind of figured it would happen. Next is MK gets revenge on Julia. This is based off the drama that happened last season. Basically, MK had this whole plan where she was like, I believe she was stealing people's stuff so she could sell it afterwards to like fans of the show. Julia ended up catching her and exposing her plan, and I thought MK's excuse was pretty good, but she still got voted off. So I just kind of figured MK is gonna get revenge because Julia's the reason she got voted off and they're both evil. Ripper voted off first through third. I really don't like Ripper. Please. Then we have Emma and Chase break up and it stays that way. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I just really dislike this relationship, and obviously Emma doesn't deserve someone like Chase, someone who's gonna put her in immediate danger like that. I really feel for her and I really hope she has her independent arc this season. I think there's a lot more potential for her character if they utilize it correctly and make her more than just her shitty ex-boyfriend. And then speaking of Chase, I put Chase voted first through fourth or before the merge. I just don't really like Chase either. Like, I'm sorry, he just reminds me of Brent Rivera way too much. And that's not an insult to his character. That means they did an amazing job because they were obviously basing him off Brent Rivera, or at least that's my theory, because they literally look like twins. Next is a theory I talked about in my last review about Damien, and this is Damien becomes a Gen 1 expert and he binges all the seasons. I just think this would be so fucking funny. Plus it would be like he can make Gen 1 references, so kind of adds to that. Damien came into the show knowing nothing, so it'd be very funny if he came in and started making all these like niche references. Moving on, we have Priya and Millie voted off before merge. They both made it really far last time, so just kind of general one. I also think it would be interesting to see these characters as like more individuals and not like together all the time, because they were together like literally the entirety of last season. Next I put Z as a strong competitor. I was kind of running out of ideas a little bit here. This is kind of a reference to something I talked about with a specific challenge in my last review. I'm gonna just insert the clip here. I haven't seen anyone talk about this, but that challenge, like the eating challenge, I was really mad because Z had a lot of potential to win and he was kind of like the odd one out in a sense. Like we can see from the very last episode he got eliminated in. I think he should have won that fair and square. He was doing so well compared to the others. Everyone was like gagging, almost throwing up, and he was taking it like a champ. So milk? Really? I just hope they would actually utilize his character and his strengths and not like have him go down that like dumbing down a character route. Next one is intro hints, which is basically talking about how for all of the previous seasons, they'll usually hint who like the couple is. They didn't do this with Rajbo, I think because it would just be like a spoiler. Well, it kind of is when they do it anyway, so I don't know why they didn't do that. The current intro for the reboot is Chris and Chef, so Canon Cref. I'm fine with that. I just like thought it would be interesting if they actually do hint some things within the intro this time. Next we have Raj and Wayne voted off together again. I just honestly, I really hope they're not, but just because of last time, I really see it going down that same route again. They're literally like two peas in a pod. They're inseparable. And if they do get voted off separately, I hope it isn't like that whole Katie and Sadie effect. And why I say I hope this doesn't happen is because they're strong competitors and I would love to see one of them make it to the end. Next we have Axel makes it past merge. I just like this character wasn't really utilized last season and I really didn't like the way she was voted off. I think she has potential to be a strong competitor, and I hope to see her make it farther. Next is Raj and Wayne voted off separately. I just talked about this one. I don't know why I didn't put that like directly right after that, but you know what I mean. Bowie and Emma rekindle their friendship. If it goes through the route of like Emma and Chase break up, then I think it'd be, you know, nice to see her make amends. Because the way she treated Bowie to me really pissed me off. But also getting back with someone like Chase, I'm not surprised that caused her to act like this. I don't know, I just thought some amends would be made. Maybe they would rekindle their friendship, maybe not. And going along with intro hints, I put Bowie and Raj are the couple in the intro, just that they would update that because now we know they're a couple. Next is Nichelle makes it to the top 4. Please, Oh my gosh, she has potential to literally be the it girl. The way she was treated last season, like by the writers, I guess, like I just hated her elimination. I felt really horrible for her, and I would just love to see her have some redemption. I don't know. I just really think her character has potential that's not being utilized, and it would be great to see it utilized. Next, we have small Rajvo conflict. A lot of people have been saying like they're gonna make them break up or something. I don't know. Just the typical practice of the history of total drama couples. They don't have a great track record. I hope they leave this couple alone, but I do feel like a small conflict will arise. Hopefully nothing too serious. I don't think it'll cause them to break up or anything. And finally, season 3 announcement. I don't know. I put this because we don't know if there's going to be a 3rd season yet. It might also have to do with how the season performs, and it hasn't even come out in America yet. I'm not sure about Canada. I don't think it's come out in Canada. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The show's Canadian, that's why I bring it up, but I'm American, and I know there's a huge total drama fan base here, so it's a little weird that it hasn't been released or even like advertised. But yeah, that was my prediction bingo card for the 2nd season of the total drama reboot. And now we're gonna get on into my review, but first, hold on, give me a And with that, we've reached the point of the video where this is your spoiler warning. Do not watch any further if you do not want to be spoiled. That's kind of the point of a review. So I was obviously rewatching this video back because like I'm editing, and I just realized like how much of a hater I am in this video compared to like my last one. So I just want to say that like I did enjoy this season. It was fun watch, regardless of the things that I wish turned out differently. It's kind of the fun of the show, total drama. There's gonna be stuff that I think should have went differently and disagree with. But the point of these videos is I get really opinionated and really passionate about these characters because I love this show so much. So I just felt like a disclaimer was needed, okay? I know I'm quite a hater, but I do like total drama. Funny thing is, I've actually been thinking about doing this literally since this season. I was like, oh my god, like I have a blonde wig. But I was like, oh, it's not the same length. But then mullet Julia.
So it doesn't matter anymore.
Hot take? I don't know if this is a hot take. I love mullet Julia, and I think the mullet looks great on her. I really thought we were going a Heather route with that. Okay, I need to stop getting ahead of myself. Anyway, we have the prediction bingo here, and I'm going to show you guys, reveal my bingo card. This is what my bingo card ended up looking like. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right. And this time we had a whole season of knowledge of like what these characters were like and what the arcs were last time. So I was like, I can kind of like predict. But yeah, I did a lot better this time around, probably because I knew what to expect. I got a total of 10 wrong, which is 8 less than last time. Now, does that sound like a win for lulaloopsey or what? But with that out of the way, let's get into my in-depth review of the series. I don't think I'm gonna go into, I don't think I'm gonna go in a certain order. But to start off on a more positive note, I did want to talk about the cool cameos we got and like references this season. The first one I remember seeing like right off the bat was in episode 2, where at the beginning we see this woodpecker and it's carving the skull that's on Duncan's shirt into a tree. There was also another small reference we got. It was a little more casual, but it wasn't for total drama. It was for 16. I mentioned semi-recently in my childhood theme songs ranking that basically in one of Z's confessionals, he quotes 16, like the theme song.
I don't like to move through life too fast. I want to make the good times last.
Which, if you don't know, 16 and Total Drama are both made by Fresh TV, and they actually share a lot of voice actors, which is really cool. Another cool non-total drama thing I guess we saw was we got a lot of Redonkulous Race cameos this season. You're probably like, that is total drama. Yeah, same universe, just it's not the same show. Anyway, this included one of the canon winners from the cadets, MacArthur, being involved with this one challenge in episode 11 where the contestants were chased by these like scary dogs. Then in episode 12, each of the like potential finalists in the challenge has this thing called a tank of terror, which contains their fears inside. And Julia's fear happens to be old people. So when she gets dropped into the tank finally, we get a Gary and Pete cameo, which honestly, oh my god, I have to say is my favorite. Like, when I tell you I screamed. Gary and Pete, if you don't know, got eliminated first in Redonkulous Race, which sucked because I actually found them pretty comical. So this was really a cool cameo, honestly. Like, I just thought we would never see them again. And finally, let me talk about the elephant in the room. We got a character cameo from the original cast, who also happens to be another canonical winner, aka Owen! Oh my gosh, okay, so this happened in episode 7, the baking contest, which was judged by Chris, Chef, and Owen. Several things about this, but I love especially how canonically this proves kind of that these characters really don't age. This is exactly the outcome I was kind of hoping for, because for the Total Drama universe, I just find it so funny, which is also kind of weird to say out loud because there's that one Total Drama Rama episode where Gwen and Cody grow old because of like some bet they were doing for ice cream. Take that with a grain of salt. I don't watch Redonkulous Race, probably never will.
Fuck T.I., fuck Nelly, fuck 50. I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
And in that same episode when Gwen finally wins the bet, we do see Owen aged up. But you know what? As I said, Total Drama Universe,
That's a separate universe.
but yeah, I just really liked seeing Owen again, personally. I just know this cameo pissed a whole group of people off in this fandom, and that brings me such immense joy because Owen, such an overhated character in the first place. The only valid reason I think to hate Owen is for the gag that he is with like his whole eating and fart humor and that type of thing. I don't like that about his character. Outside of that, I really like his character, so that's why I can tolerate him. Also, at least, I said this before in the last one, at least he has some class to say excuse me, unlike a certain someone in this reboot cast. But besides Owen, there were some other kind of like obvious OG cast references, specifically in episode 8's challenge, which referenced Dunkney, Izzy, and oh my god, okay, the amount of Scary Girl references we got after her elimination. Let's make that the first point of this video. We're gonna start off strong, or of this video, of this review. If you watched my last review, you would know I'm a huge Scary Girl fan. And the funniest part is I've had so many mutuals like reach out to me, mutuals or friends, and they're like, she literally reminds me of you. Which is because about a year ago, I had the same kind of purple hair, and it just makes me miss that hair so much. But the truth of it is, that hair was so high maintenance that like, I don't miss it at the same time. I miss it, like it looked really good, but to keep up with it was kind of a nightmare. But I love her character design. I found her hilarious, and her voice actress is absolutely phenomenal. I think we can all agree there, even if you love or hate her. However, despite her being a fan favorite last season, she was eliminated first. Now, disappointed is an understatement because, I'm sorry, how do you make a gag character and then not utilize them? In fact, the most they ever get utilized is once they've left the show.
I mean, there are, but only because I live at a funeral home.
I miss that weirdo.
Where am I?
Are you ready for pain?
Get me away from her!
Aw, Scary Girl loved that skull.
And the one episode she is in this season doesn't feed anybody because she's like, they make this character like a shell of what she once was. My first thought personally was,
Why did they make my autistic girl mask?
I want to start this off by saying I'm autistic, so this is why I'm talking about it. It's just a headcanon, but it's one I agree with very much. And just because I do doesn't mean you have to agree with it, and it doesn't mean it's true. I think Scary Girl is autistic, and I really saw this in season 1 too. Like, we've seen Lauren repeatedly stimming, specifically when like blood and skulls were mentioned, things her peers do not show any interest in, but they bring Lauren like a great amount of joy and excitement. So I propose, all things deemed scary seem to be her special interest. She also seems to misunderstand things frequently, and it's clear that like her peers misunderstand her intentions, which is why the most damning evidence of all is episode 1 of season 2, where it's clear from the moment we see her, she's completely lost her usual attire and hairstyle and is trying to appeal to the people who've made harsh judgments of her, including a fan message boards she said in her cameo, and then even her own mother like pointed this out to her. So she's decided to be normal this season in an effort to last longer and appeal to her peers, maybe make some friends. The part that stood out to me the most, or spoke to me the most as an autistic person, was the part where Lauren goes deeper into this, like right before she gets eliminated. Obviously, stalking aside, this isn't meant to be like a serious scene, but it's only added to really give everyone a reason to like be freaked out by Lauren and get her voted off once again. But she talks about how she's worked so hard to become the normal girl she is today, which as I said, reminded me of masking. It really seems like she's masked away all the scary parts of her that, you know, didn't appeal to society and didn't appeal to her peers in order to fit in and, you know, become more of a liked contestant to last longer in the game, which was a decision she made based off harsh and unnecessary criticisms from fans and people she knew in her real life. Something which Lauren really regrets when she gets voted off. Lauren put so much hard work to appeal to these people, only for her peers to still not accept her. All this work for her to still be voted off early, even earlier than last time in fact. So when we see Lauren again in the finale, thankfully the balance has been restored because she's back to her, original attire and antics, which, oh my gosh, can we get more interactions between her and MK? Because that was such a fun duo in that episode to me. I loved it. Probably because they're two of my favorite characters. Maybe I'm a little biased. But yeah, I know at the moment in canon there's no autistic characters, but I still found a lot of comfort in Scary Girl. I didn't really look that deeply into this. I just pointed out a couple things, but there's actually a thread made by Vampire Stars on Twitter that is a deeper thread into why they believe that the character's autistic. But yeah, I really wanted to mention this. Even though she's not in the season that much, I still really appreciate this character, and I hope we see more from her if there's another season in the future. I think she deserves a lot better, and I hope they have her make it to the merge. You have a gag character! Use the character! To shift gears though, something I was really hoping for this season and actually predicted was basically pretty much I was hoping Emma and Chase would break up, and they do. Immediately in the first episode, they're broken up for good. And bringing this up, I do want to say I was really harsh on Emma in the last season. I don't really feel that strongly anymore. I think I was just really upset because of the way they wrote that whole plot. I did not like that. So this time around, I was really actually looking forward to getting to know her more as an individual, instead of season 1, where her character revolved so much around Chase. Even though she was friends with Bowie too, her character still revolved around him. Unfortunately, they didn't do much with Emma though, and I was pretty disappointed. Specifically, her elimination bothered me because it was so clearly Priya's fault for her team losing. She played a huge role in that by messing with Emma like that. And because Priya also made it very far in the last season, obviously, I really do think in this episode should have been Priya that went home. Don't get me wrong, I actually really like Priya as a character, and I think she deserved her win last season, after all her parents put her through. But she should not have lasted as long as she did this season. Her almost making the finale again, despite already having $1 million, is crazy! Especially when the only reason they kept her around was for that predictable ass storyline with Caleb. Obviously the last time I did this type of video, I didn't get to give my thoughts on Caleb as a character because he was eliminated first. But oh my god, I am so glad he didn't win. This man was driving me crazy with this plot. First of all, from the get-go, he did not need to lie to Priya like that. He could have just asked her from episode 1 or 2 to, hey, let's form an alliance, right? And I guarantee you she would have said yes. I definitely get what they were trying to do with this plot, where they were trying to go, but from a viewer's point of view, it was just very predictable and unnecessary. And with Priya too, I thought it'd be fun to maybe see her character more as an individual, because Millie was also an early boot, but once that happened, her whole character was centered around this Caleb thing. And I want to clarify, outside of that plotline, I don't really hate Caleb. I actually really liked Caleb at first, and I thought he'd snap out of this whole alliance thing after I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 episodes, or at least be direct and actually ask her finally. But once Z came into the equation, it was just kind of obvious, it was about to go downhill from here. I think he was just a nice guy that got caught up in a situation that really could have been avoided. I don't know, I just think some of the hate I've been seeing towards this character online was extremely taking things way too far. But let me know how you feel about that storyline in the comments. I've seen a lot of people really dislike this ship. Also, circling back to the Owen cameo for that baking challenge, in episode 7, it was kind of both cute and sad to see how much Priya idolized Owen. We start this season by, Priya telling us her reasoning for coming back at all to the show, even after winning the last season, which is because her dad insisted she put away the money until she's 40, despite the fact that she won this money herself fair and square. So Priya was either stuck with the choice of working a crappy summer job at the Weenie Wagon or coming back to Total Drama, so obviously she decided to come back. I don't know if you guys have been following that Little Sandwich series by Caroline, but it's obviously not the same exact thing, but it reminded me about how these, family channel parents, they make all this money off of their kids and they don't give them the earnings. We've seen Priya was trained by her parents her entire life for Total Drama, and after all that, she doesn't even have access to the money she rightfully earned and worked her whole life for, arguably. At the end of the day, I know it's just an excuse, so her coming back to the show makes sense. However, I would have liked to who have seen her this season maybe experience a realization of, oh shit, that was not a normal childhood, or why am I even here? I already won. I could see this being through Millie, who she gave her this like training guide, total drama training guide or something. Millie didn't read it and then she felt really guilty. That could have sparked a conversation looking deeper into Priya's childhood and backstory. Also, speaking of Millie, I know I wasn't like the biggest fan of her character last season, and I think she was 100% in the wrong for what she did to Damien. I mean, she could have killed him. Next is Ripper. I gave him his own tier for a reason.
You, Millie, are a ripper.
No, I'm not. I'm not. Am I seriously a ripper?
I was kind of looking forward to maybe seeing more done with her character or seeing her shine more as an individual, but she just ended up being an early boot, and that was that. Now, one of my predictions that I mentioned on the bingo board was a faninship of Nichelle and Axel. There's like one clip in the finale where they interacted and fans saw that and they're like, oh, these characters have a good dynamic. I like their designs. I think they'd be cool. And that was enough to convince people that it could turn into something more. However, this did not happen, obviously, which was fine by me. I was just more focused on Nichelle as a character, like taking the competition by storm anyways, and like continuing to redeem herself to her fellow competitors who honestly did not think highly of her at all. But that arc was for nothing because what's her elimination? Oh, she was written off. She got tricked into thinking she had a movie deal or something, and Nichelle left on her own accord. I don't know if it was just me, but like the fact that it's only these black women getting these bullshit non-voting style eliminations really sits weird with me, and I'm like really sick of it. It's something where, not my place to speak, but I would love to hear your perspectives in the comments. I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, she was too good for the game anyway. That is such a stupid take. If she was so good, she shouldn't have been essentially written off for no reason. Dare I say it's just like Lashana? Because it really is. I just want to clarify here. I was not trying to say in this clip that, like, these two eliminations are on the exact same level. More so that this was like a modern day Lashana elimination. If we're looking at the two eliminations, Lashana's is obviously way, way worse. There's no questions there. She was written off, no reason, and if Lashana would have stayed in the game and not had that bullshit ass, like, written off elimination, then I truly believe that she would have won Island. She had the skills. She was the player. And hey, if they wanted to do at least one stupid write-off elimination this season, I would say pick Priya. And why I say that is because, circling back to my point earlier with her not having access to that money when she should have, that would be a plot point that makes more sense for her to leave on her own accord and be like, hey, my childhood wasn't normal. That's my money. I should have access to my money. Not saying they should do these write-offs where the character just leaves like this, because honestly I hate it, but at least pick a character where it's gonna make sense, because this was just so stupid. I genuinely do not believe she would fall for something like this. But back to this faninship, why did I bring it up? Well, a lot of people were dead set on Nichelle x Axel, which was purely a faninship. Never once was this like hinted at or confirmed by Terry McGurran, but I've seen fans getting upset at him online, or I don't know if they are anymore, but I did see them at one point. And I just want to say I don't really condone that. And elimination aside, Nichelle's character was something I really enjoyed this season, seeing that arc for her. But for me, where I became truly upset was the turn things took with Axel's character instead. Axel stayed past the merge like I predicted, sure, but at what cost? The season starts with Ripper saying,
Hi Axel, how you been?
Hey, Axel, how you been? Ah!
Which people saw as some kind of crazy character development, even though that is the bare minimum. He's just saying hi! Like, literally in that same episode, mind you, moments later, she gets chosen before him for, like, when they're picking teams, and he calls her the worst pick yet.
Axel!
Worst pick yet.
Then suddenly, in the next episode, Ripper has a crush on her? Excuse me! Think of this ship in the perspective of Joan of K. I don't like the ship, but if they wrote it better, and it wasn't so rushed, maybe I would give it a chance. Though I would not with this ship. Why am I lying? I just hate this pairing personally. I would have been less upset by it though, if they actually wrote it well. See, in episode 3, they had the perfect opportunity to have Ripper apologize to Axel for how things went down the previous season, because they get stuck together in a similar way to Dunkney in season 1, which I didn't even think about until I was re-watching the episode with BH Ultra Hub, if you guys know him. But anyway, we see Axel and Ripper towards the beginning of the challenge, and then we see them again at the end, leaving no opportunity for that kind of thing. But in this challenge, we basically see Ripper and Axel once, and then we see them at the end, leaving no opportunity for that kind of thing.
We been thinking with our heads when we should be using our butts.
Oh my god.
How hard can you fart? You better not be giving that camera
isn't
love
real.
eyes.
No!
This isn't real. No!
It's working!
But in episode 4, the most confusing thing of all, he straight up tells Axel, you know, how he feels. And Axel, she says, hey, like, you're not really my type. But then suddenly at the end of the episode, in the challenge, Ripper learns that she likes poetry. So he reads her this, like, mediocre poem. And then suddenly she's madly in love with him. I am so confused. Now, a lot of people have also said this was bound to happen or not out of nowhere because of the interactions these two had last season. But do you hear what you're saying? Their interactions last season were Ripper taking issue with having a girl in charge on their team's challenge and then getting the same girl eliminated. How are you not gonna at least apologize or acknowledge like where things left off last season? A lot of people tend to ignore those little sexist moments that Ripper had in the last season, but to give him the benefit of the doubt, I will say he was actually a lot more tolerable for me this season. I definitely see growth in his character, which makes it especially annoying that like they didn't just give him proper growth on screen. And another thing I've seen people say about this ship is, but I thought you guys liked enemies to lovers. I'm sorry, what? What about this ship is enemies to lovers? Maybe I'm just missing something, but like they weren't even around each other enough to become enemies? Because Axel got voted off directly after this singular conflict. But yeah, personally to me, this truly came out of nowhere. I would have even liked it if they built up like Ripper's guilt towards what he did to Axel over the last season, because at least that would eventually make this make sense. But instead they just magically made him like have this crush on her, and it was really strange. And then to top it all off, they become this annoying like couple that's constantly making out, you know, that total drama trope. I will say the funniest part of all this is the cast just being as repulsed as me watching it. It felt like we were like breaking the fourth wall or something. All this to say, I'm really disappointed with the like route they took Axel's character, who clearly had great strengths, but then they finally decide to like keep her in the game. They don't really utilize her, they just like have her character around to be completely centered around this man. All of that too for Axel to then get voted off again over Ripper. But you know what happens this time at least? Double elimination, baby.
Oh, go on! I've never felt like this before!
Yeah, been fun. See you around, maybe.
What?
I have to admit that at this point, I was just so happy they were gone, I couldn't take it anymore.
Double elimination? Works for me!
But suddenly, in the finale, they're like back together, and what is happening? I don't understand, please make it stop. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on Axel and Ripper. I've heard a lot of people really like them. I just think it's not for me, but I also want to throw out there that I saw online people were saying that like, if you don't like Ripper, you're fat phobic. And I just want to say, the reason that I don't like him, I've expressed this far enough, is his fart fetish. He's literally, his whole thing is the fart, and I find it absolutely disgusting. Like, I really can't. And I know there's gonna be that one person that's like, oh, it's not a fetish, Lula. He flirted with Emma about her farts. In his love poem to Axel, he referenced farts.
Even cheek squeezed tight could not contain a sweet smell of love, my heart's methane.
What? No more, please. I can't. I really can't anymore. Moving on, though, even though Nichelle x Axel did not happen, that's not to say that the Sapphics weren't getting fed this season. Originally, my bingo said that MK would get revenge on Julia for her, like, unveiling her plan last season, but the quite opposite happens with this pair. A lot of people have been saying, like, oh, I hated MK since last season, but now she's my favorite. Not me! Not me! 100% preferred her villainous storyline over Julia's. I don't understand why people are so harsh on her, like particularly her, because I literally saw a tweet not that long ago that was like, I hate this bitch from Total Drama. Let's not do that. No. But finally, MK appreciation. She's honestly one of my favorites in this new gen. Focusing back on Julia, I actually love the whole, like, she's a shitty person unveiling of her character when it comes to season 1. But outside of that, I found her, like, pretty overrated when it comes to, like, fandom. The one character everyone seemed to collectively agree they liked was Julia, and it was weird because I just did not find myself being an automatic fan. Like, everyone seemed to be this, like, collective automatic fan of hers, but she wasn't, like, doing it for me personally because her character's meanness was kind of written like, I'm mean. Did I mention I'm mean? Anyways, I mean, however, the choice they made this season to partner up Julia and MK was genius! I love the way that these two characters just naturally bounced off each other because they have a lot in common. If you think about it, it's funny because we're supposed to be so invested in this Priya, like, Caleb plotline, since it's like the main plotline of the season, but I found myself caring more about these two. Not only did this pairing help Julia grow on me as a character, obviously. Not to say she didn't piss me off this season, because what she did to Nichelle, and the fact that it was for nothing, since she didn't even end up winning. And no, that was not Wayne shade. We'll get back to that in a minute. My point being that, like, not only did Julia grow on me, but very quickly it dawned on me that, oh my god, they are the definition of be gay and do crime. These two immediately hit it off really well, helping their team by what they do best. Cheating. When I say they work as a team, I mean it. In one of their earliest confessionals, which, yes, they pretty much do all their confessionals together, Julia says, if we keep losing challenges, MK and I are going home for sure.
Oh, if we keep losing challenges, MK and I are for sure going home.
Which shows us that, like, hey, she isn't using MK to her advantage for once. She actually considers MK a friend. There's literally a scene where Julia says if MK's brain drove a cool car, she'd date it.
If MK's brain drove a cool car, I'd date it.
Like, what more proof do you need than that?
She said MK was making her blush.
You are vicious.
Stop it. You're making me blush.
She said she was gonna use the $1 million to start a podcast with MK!
I promise to share some of the money with you if I win.
Aw, I wouldn't do that for you.
I know, I'm lying. When I win the money, I'm gonna produce a podcast for MK and I.
That is literally the gayest thing I've ever heard. But Lula, what about MK? We all saw her reaction to seeing Nichelle in season 1.
It's me, Nichelle LaDonna, star of the hit TV show Hot Teen Ninja Detective Squad.
In episode 7 specifically, Julia mentions thinking MK was going home for sure in the last ceremony and how that would have stunk, but MK replies, why? Because you like me? And Julia gets all like flustered, like panicky before abruptly leaving, telling MK that she hopes she gets eaten by something in the woods. Then in the baking challenge with Owen in that same episode, MK and her are on separate teams. The teams are randomized by Chris. So Julia ends up actually sabotaging MK's team. They're teams of 3. And at the start of episode 8, it turns out ever since, Julia has like been actively avoiding her and clearly is on edge about something when confronted. However, this plot point doesn't really go anywhere. It's really weird. We get sidetracked by Z, which I can't really be mad about because it gave us this scene.
Hey Z, come talk to us. Let it out. Just let it out.
Only an episode later, in episode 9, MK would be voted off thanks to Julia, but not in a malicious way because MK was also actively trying to get Julia voted off. Also, not the lesbian sunset behind them. With this, MK and Julia end on good terms, and Julia seems to be kind of scared to lose MK as a friend. But MK's like thoroughly impressed on how Julia was just able to outsmart her and wishes her luck. We see this best with the finale. There's the 3 finalists, and everyone had to pick the team of the person they wanted to root for and like help win. MK is the only one who picks Julia. And yeah, I'm just honestly really disappointed we haven't got a sapphic total drama couple yet. Also, Bowie was a very early boot this season, so we didn't get much of Rajbo either, which was kind of sad. Though I did really like their arc this season when it came to Bowie's growth. It was needed growth, so his elimination wasn't as unsettling to me. Realistically, I would have liked it to be just like a little later. It was kind of soon, but it was fine. I was fine with it. Seriously wish we could have seen this pair become canon. I feel like it was a missed opportunity. It could have happened this season. Not gonna lie, seeing nothing come from that episode 8 scene where they get interrupted by Z made me feel like I was having like a Gwartney moment. Historians will call them close friends, besties, roommates, colleagues. But hey, you know, the fact that Terry McGurran is all for this ship on Twitter really gives me hope for the future of it. And with what happened with Gwartney, I can
only hope you feel like you owe it to us.
I can't take any more trauma. And finally, to close this video off, I want to discuss the finale and the events leading up to it, kinda. What I mean about events is I want to focus on Damien, who was robbed! I said this in my season 1 review, although he previously knew nothing about the game. This character had so much potential to make it far, and he's just an enjoyable character all around to me. I love Damien. Before we get into what happened, I wish they would have expanded more upon the Hockey Bros relationship with Damien too. We don't see them bond at all, like, I mean, maybe like briefly, but like, after he's left, they end up listing all these things they'll miss now that Damien's gone, and it just makes me like, wish we could have seen them bonding. I don't know, it seems like a wholesome friendship. Anyway, on to what what actually went down. Basically, Damien is the one who finds the immunity idol. Him finding it was really a great choice, and it kind of guaranteed that Damien would make it far, so that got me really excited. Ever since he found it, we get little snippets of him like re-hiding it and being worried that, oh my god, someone could steal it from me. Oh, the foreshadowing! In episode 10, at the campfire, Damien gets voted off, which doesn't really bother him in the slightest because he knows he has his immunity idol. But when he reaches for the spot that he hid it, he finds a toilet plunger instead. Then, as if it's not obvious, in episode 11, when Julia is going home, she whips out the idol, and that means that Priya is then going home instead because it was neck and neck between Priya and Julia. But the thing that bothers me about this is despite seeing clips of MK and Julia searching for the idol, we don't actually see Julia finding it or even a flashback to her finding it at all. It's kind of like she just did this and we don't know how. In the show's defense, I know it's supposed to be unfair and Julia's the villain, but it just was kind of like unnecessary to give Damien the idol in the first place. If the plot was going to go absolutely nowhere, what could have even been more interesting is like the prize for the challenge that episode is like double immunity. So whoever wins can choose someone to also give immunity to, and it ends up being Julia who chooses Caleb to mess with Priya. But what would have been cool is actually if Julia revealed to Damien, hey, I have the immunity idol and now I'm going to blackmail you. And then that way he was saved still, but under Julia's spell, kind of. I don't know, I just like, if you compare this to All Stars, I know, I'm stooping low. There's that episode where Alejandro takes the immunity idol from Heather after she hides it. We see him do that. We get the perspective. We don't for this, so it was kind of weird. I would have liked to have seen behind the scenes. It's not even behind the scenes. I would have liked to see this happen. Know when it happened. Anyway, on to the final. The final three were Julia, Caleb, and Wayne, which I better not see any Wayne hatred in my comment section. The amount of people that like suddenly hate this character just because he won really irks me, honestly. This is like the equivalent if Cody had won World Tour. Do not insult Wayne like that. If anything, this is similar to Owen winning Island. Such a silly, well-liked, friendly dude having the time of his life with his buddy Raj. How could I be mad? In the wise words of Switchy from Total Drama YouTube, there's not a single fictional character that deserves $1 million more than Wayne. The scene from this episode where they are like supposed to be shooting Wayne off this tightrope with t-shirt cannons, but they just like kind of stop in their tracks because but it's Wayne.
We should take him out to help Caleb.
But it's Wayne!
But we're on Caleb's team! But it's Wayne!
Describes this situation so perfectly. Now, who was I rooting for personally? Julia. That might be shocking. I was partly rooting for Wayne too. It was between those two for me. Julia not winning to me would have meant that like Nichelle going home was for nothing, which it was! And also that she took immunity from Damien for nothing. But yeah, those were some of my thoughts about the second season of the Total Drama reboot. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, but honestly my thoughts are like way more jumbled than the last time because I didn't get to watch all of this in one sitting, obviously, and I didn't really want to rewatch it. That says a lot. In the last video I literally said, oh, I think season 2 is gonna be stronger. I don't know. I really think I liked season 1 more, if I'm being honest. But yeah, there was no way I could do a first watch all in one sitting because of the amount of spoilers, because of this like weird ass, the way it was being laid out, posted on YouTube and stuff like that. But let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I'm actually very curious to see what you guys thought. And as always, I will see you guys in my very next video.